Hello, I am Terry Hartley of Rustic Barn Cards. I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator. Today I'm going to share a card that I have made using the stamp set Celebrate Sunflowers. I'm going to use the large sunflower stamp, the smaller sunflower stamp, and the sentiment Thanks a Bunch. I am also going to use one die from the set that goes with the Celebrate Sunflowers. So we're going to use the large die that will cut out the large sunflower. And then these are the other dies that go with that set. And you are able to buy the dies and the stamp set together as a bundle and save 10%, or you can also buy them separately. So let's look at the card that we're going to make today. This is the card that I'm going to make. Thanks a Bunch. When you open it inside, I stamped a smaller sunflower inside. Do not worry about the dimensions because I will share those with you at the end of the video. Okay? So what we're going to need for this card is we will need a piece of cardstock, 5.5 by 4 1/4 of black. You're going to need 2 white pieces, both the same size, 5 1/4 by 4 inches. One will be for the inside of the card, one we're going to layer on top. You're going to need a black piece of cardstock, 3 3/4 inches long by 1 inch wide. And then another white cardstock, 3/4 of an inch wide by 3.5 inches long, 3.5 inches long. And then a scrap of Daffodil Delight, about 4 by 4 inches. My new in color cardstock is on its way, but it's not here yet, so we are going to use the Daffodil Delight to make the sunflower. And then you also will need about 6 inches of ribbon. I am going to use the Bumblebee ribbon that I was able to order in the pre-order, and some in color dots. Okay, so I'm going to take the black cardstock, I'm going to fold it in half and crease it, and then lay that aside. I want to do all my stamping first, so I'm going to bring in one of the pieces of the Whisper White, and this is the one I'm going to use for inside my card. So I'm going to take the smaller sunflower and I'm going to stamp it in the corner, and then this will be for inside my card. So I'm going to lay that aside and then bring in my other white cardstock that is 5 1/4 by 4, and I'm going to go ahead and make the background. So I'm going to ink up my stamp. I'm going to start right in the corner, and then I'm going to stamp off. And let's see, we'll put one right there. And now I'm going to ink, I'm going to stamp, and then stamp off. And we'll put one here. And because I did not put the whole stamp on the card, I have to make sure I have the ink off my stamp so I don't have that ridge. I'm going to stamp, and then I'm going to stamp off. And I'll stamp one here. Straight down, straight up. I'm going to stamp and then stamp off. Okay. And you do not need to fill up the entire sunflower, or this, excuse me, you do not need to fill up the entire cardstock with sunflowers because it will be covered up. So that looks good. While I have my stamps and ink out, I'm going to bring in the envelope. I like to decorate my envelope. So I am going to just, in the corner, put a partial of the small sunflower stamp. And then I'm going to bring in my small white strip for my sentiment, because I want to get all of my stamping completed. And I'm going to bring in my sentiment, thanks a bunch, and I have it in the middle because it's easier to work with. I'm going to go ahead and ink that up, and just to be sure, I'm going to practice. I'm going to go ahead and make sure that I straight down and straight up. It looks good. So I'll ink that up again, and then try to get right in the middle and straight down and straight up. Okay, looks good. So I'm going to lay that aside. And now I am going to bring in my 4x4 Daffodil Delight, and I am finished with the ink, so I can get that out of the way. And now I am going to use Versamark because I'm going to emboss my sunflower. So I'm bringing in my embossing buddy. I wish they still sold the embossing buddy, but they do not. And the reason I'm using this is because it does help. It helps to keep your embossing powder where you want it to be. I'm going to bring in my Versamark and my large stamp. So I'm going to ink up my large stamp, and when I have a large stamp, I like to take the ink pad and apply ink this way. And I really want to make sure that I have lots of ink on my stamp with a Versamark. Okay. And then I'm going to make sure I close the Versamark. You want to make sure you put the lid on there immediately after you use it. Then I'm going to take my stamp and I'm going to press down. I want to make sure that I have a good imprint, and then raise it up. All right, so now I'm going to add embossing powder. I am using Shimmer Black embossing powder. So I think a coffee filter works pretty well. Kind of catches everything, and then you can put it right back in your jar. So I will sprinkle the embossing powder. Make sure that I have it covered. Looks like I do. Then I can take my coffee filter and I can just pour the extra that I didn't use right back in the jar. And put my lid. Perfect. And now we're ready to emboss. I'm going to turn my embossing tool on, get it heated up. Okay, and then I'm just going to hold it And I don't know if you'll be able to see. I'm going to try to do just the right side first. Turn it. I really need a tool to be able to hang on to the cardstock, but that's something I don't have yet. I'll put that on my wish list. I'm going to make sure I have the circle. This is a large stamp, so I want to make sure that I get it embossed even to the outer edges. Stampin' Up! Does not sell the shimmer black anymore, but you could use gold or silver. All right. I don't know if you can see that or not, how it's embossed. Now I'm going to add my die. So if you notice, if you look at your die, there's like 1, 2, kind of like 3 little waves maybe. And so I'm going to look and I see 1, 2, 3. So I kind of see that on my stamp. So I can kind of line it up. And then what I like to do is, actually I'm going to go ahead and bring in my magnetic platform for my die cut. Then we're going to line it up. So when I get it just like I want it, so when it goes through the machine, the big shot, and cuts it, we are get the results that we want. Okay, that looks good. I'm going to take just a little sticky note. Okay, I'm going to go off camera for just a second and run this through the machine. I'm very excited about the new die cutting machine that Stampin' Up! Has this year. I can't wait to find out when we can order them. Alright, so I'm going to take off the sticky note, take off the die, and we have perfectly cut out sunflower. Okay, now we are going to bring in our card base, and we're going to attach our inside card to the inside of our card base. And I'm going to use green glue. It's my favorite, but I do use snail glue at times too, which I will be using in this project. So I'm going to open up our card base. And then I want to make sure I have it exactly like I want it. Make sure it's try to get it even. Press down, and you can even turn it over. Okay, we'll lay that aside and bring in our layering piece. And now what we're going to do next is to add the 6-inch piece of ribbon. Okay. And I'm going to bring in my silicone sheet. I like that because it doesn't, the glue doesn't stick to it. I'm going to bring in my snail glue. I use snail when I apply ribbon. And I'm going to put a little bit in the middle and a little bit on each end of the ribbon. Bring in my cardstock. I'm going to lay it about in the middle. You want to make sure that you have some ribbon on each, hanging over on each side of your card. I'm trying to get that straight. Turn it over. This ribbon, the bumblebee, is a little bit thicker than some ribbon, so I like to put extra snail glue on the card base itself, even though I have some glue on the end of the ribbon. And I can still get that up a little bit. Perfect. All right, so now I am going to put glue on the back of our layering piece of cardstock. Put a little bit on that ribbon because I want to make sure that it adheres. And bring in my cardstock and carefully get it just like I want it. Sometimes I think it's straight and then it's not, but that looks straight. Perfect. All right. Now the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to attach the large sunflower to my card. So I'm going to bring in some large dimensionals for that. So I'm going to turn this over and add dimensionals. I always make sure I have a dimensional in the middle so we don't have any sagging. And since this is such a large card, I know I'm going to add kind of some extra dimensionals to make sure. And then I'll just take off the tops of the dimensionals. Have you ever forgot and then you thought you had all of them off but you didn't? That has happened to me before. Okay, we're going to bring in our card, and you know, you can put it at your sunflower this way. You can have it this way, just whatever way that you want, you can place it. So I'm going to try to kind of get in the middle and press that down. Great. Now I'm going to bring in that small piece of black, and it is going to go right down here. So I'm going to go ahead and use my snail glue. I like to use it for ribbon and small pieces. And then I want to make sure that I have the same amount on the left as I do on the right, but I also want to make sure that it is straight. And I want it up a little bit so you can see some of the small sunflowers beneath this little strip that I'm placing down here. Okay, great. Now I am going to use dimensionals for the sentiment. So I'm bringing in the sentiment, thanks a bunch. I'm going to add some dimensionals. I'm going to bring in the smaller ones for this. And I almost went too close to the edge, but I'm okay. You can't see it on the other side, so that's good. Probably 3 would have been fine, but we will put some extra ones. So I'll take off the backs. And now I'm going to place this. And again, I want to make sure that there's a little bit showing in each side, and I also want it to kind of be in the middle and straight. So there's a lot going on. Awesome. Okay. So now the only thing that we need to do is to bring in some dots. And I am bringing in the new in color dots, even though our cardstock is Daffodil Delight, but our ribbon is Bumblebee. So we could use the Bumblebee dots. We could, I think, Just jade would be nice on there too. But I'm going to go ahead and use the bumblebee. We'll match the ribbon. And I think it also looks just fine with the sunflower that's in Daffodil Delight. And then we'll add our dots. Perfect, there's the card. And inside we have the sunflower. I'm going to bring it, and here is the one that so both of these are the same that we made today. And I told you I would share with you another card that I made using different colors. So here's another one that I made using Daffodil Delight for the base, as well as stamping and the sunflower. And then I used the bumblebee ribbon and bumblebee dots. So 2 cards here, both the same but different colors. Which one do you like the best? The black and white or the yellow or bumblebee and white? So let me know. Thank you for watching my video. I appreciate it. Again, I'm Terry Hartley, Rustic Barn Cards. If you do not have a catalog, reach out to me and I will send you one. Thank you for watching and have a great day.